Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here once again with the Norman Conquests. Uh, we've already gone. We started where we started. Damn, my mind went blank. Okay, went to Italy and took over a big chunk of Italy, and then the Normans decided to go to Sicily. Defeated Sicily pretty much, but they don't have all the lands there anymore, but they still like conquested it and they still got a part of it. And then they went to Rome and doing pretty good in Rome, but now they had to like kind of like retreat back to Italy because other people were taking their lands pretty much, right? That's kind of how it went. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, the Normans are coming back to their settlement pretty much in Italy and just trying to like, make sure everything's all fine and dandy, right? Fine and dandy. So yeah, that's where we're at because they went to Rome, but they didn't really they didn't conquer it or anything. They just kind of just they were going to try to things that didn't really work out. I guess as planned there. When they did win their battle, things at home weren't going that great, so they had to go back. So I don't know if is it the king of German king or something? Is that King Henry or something? I don't know if he's going to come into play. Is that right? I don't know. We'll find out here soon. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to come into play here. And no, because wait, this is the Norman sack. Okay, so Rome. I mean, blah. The Normans are going to make sure everything's okay back in Italy. Now they're going to go back to Rome, and then they're going to sack Rome, right? Yeah, sounds like pretty straightforward stuff. But anyways, before I do, please hit that like and subscribe button, please, and thank you. I'd appreciate it. And I think that's it. It's by Kings and Generals. Definitely subscribe to them because they're an amazing channel. And here you go. Yep. I don't. Okay. All good, guys. Let's try to. My mouse does not want to work, but here you go. All right. 3, 2, 1. Bam.
In the spring of 1082, the great fortress of Dyrrhachium had fallen, and Byzantium's Balkan defences were in shambles. The old fox Guiscard had left his son in charge of the Byzantine campaign, himself having returned to Italy to rescue the Pope from the ambitions of the German king. In Greece, the showdown between an untested young Norman warlord and the cunning Eastern Roman Emperor would decide the fate of Eastern Rome, while the old fox's final romp in Italy would cement the Normans' legacy in the Catholic West.
Okay.
By this point, you probably have watched everything on your streaming services, are
sure.
bored and are in need of more content.
No, I'm good.
To avoid regional restrictions. Support us and get a free month of premium VPN, link in the description. Don't forget to use the coupon code Kings and Generals. In the months following the fall of Dyrrhachium, Guiscard and his armies marched eastwards, taking the city of Castoria with ease, where they rested and prepared an offensive on Alexios' temporary base of Thessaloniki. In April, word of the brewing revolts in Apulia reached Duke Robert, and the old warlord hastily departed back home to quell the rebellion, setting the stage for the coming contest between Bohemond and the Byzantine Emperor Alexios I Komnenos, who despite being bloodied, was not ready to throw in the towel. Surprisingly,
Okay, so everyone didn't leave Rome. They, we had to send our main guy back to kind of quench the uprisings and stuff like that. And now we got a young leader about to go in and, take over this war, the war over here, and the conquest of Rome. And let's see if he can do the job. Let's check it out.
Bohemond's in the towel. Surprisingly, Bohemond's first course of action was not to strike at Thessaloniki as his father had planned, but to take his troops and march southwest to the capital of Epirus, Ioannina. On his way through Thessaly, he found his army supplemented by the local Vlachs, a collection of peoples who existed in pockets throughout the Balkans. These Aromanians, as they were also known, had been chafing under the heavy taxation and corrupt bureaucracy of the Byzantine Empire for decades and saw common cause with the Normans.
That's cool.
By the end of April, Bohemon's army had reached Ioannina. The city quickly surrendered to spare itself from the ruthless pillaging that the Normans were infamous for. Bohemond spent the next few months fortifying its defences. Meanwhile, Alexios had retreated to Constantinople, where he had managed to scrape together another new army despite depleted resources. The total size of this army is lost to history, but it likely outnumbered Bohemond's expeditionary force.
Yeah.
Sometime in the summer,
I'm sure the quality is way down though. Like, he lost his army and had to go back and had to hurry up and get another one. Probably a bunch of farmers, maybe. I don't know. It just can't be as good as the previous one. And so, obviously, he probably definitely has more people. I just don't think. I think the quality is probably way down compared to the Normans. You think?
Expeditionary force. Sometime in the summer, Alexios' host had arrived in the hinterlands just outside Ioannina. The shrewd emperor had learned from his loss at Dyrrhachium. To counteract the thundering impact of a Norman cavalry charge, he had a squadron of light chariots hidden behind a front line of infantry, with riders hiding beneath the vehicles. The plan was to lead the Normans into believing that the Byzantines were a primarily foot soldier-based army, prompting them to commit to a full-scale charge. When the enemy knights came within striking distance, the front line would split and the riders would rush onto their chariots, using their superior mobility to outmaneuver, flank, and destroy.
Okay.
This, however, would never come to pass. Bohemond evidently had learned of the Greeks' plans beforehand, and responded by simply dividing his cavalry into two wings, charging into the Byzantine forces' left and right flank to catch them in a pincer movement, rendering them unable to maneuver around them. Caught entirely by surprise, most of Alexios' army fled the field, while many were slaughtered in a brutal melee.
Wow.
Ioannina remained in Norman hands. Humiliated once
Man. Boymod, man, one step ahead. So, obviously he learned something, I mean, he didn't go to his father's plan because his father wanted him to go, head to Thrace. I can't pronounce that. But as far as learning tactics and stuff, the Norman, the young Norman, man, kicking butt. Obviously, there's some scouts out there. He found out something about what Alexios's plan was. And the army that Alex just put together just got decimated. I can't believe how fast that battle was. I mean, I thought there was going to be a little pushing and shoving there, but no, it was just like, bam, we know exactly what we're doing. And I guess that's just experience wise by the Normans, and experience and the fact that intelligence. He knew the plan of Alexios. So wow. Was he gonna go back and grab himself up another army? Maybe get himself some allies to join, because it's not working for him, man. It's just not. It's just not prepared, or maybe he had that plan from the get go. He was, loose with the tongue and told everyone what his plan was, and then that information kind of got back, and to Boymond. So maybe it was that. I don't know, because the chariots are not exactly probably the easiest thing to hide. So if someone sees a chariot, on the way to the battle, they're probably, light bulb in the head, what the plan is. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know anything. I just spilled gibberish.
In Norman hands. Humiliated once more, Alexios limped back to Thessaloniki, where he consolidated what remained of his levies, all the while confiscating the treasures of the Orthodox Church. This was deeply unpopular with the clergy, but it allowed the emperor to replenish his army with mercenaries. Bohemond, meanwhile, had marched his victorious forces southwards to the city of Arta, which he laid siege to. Just like Dyrrhachium and Ioannina, Alexios marched once more to relieve the latest city that had fallen into Norman clutches. Once more he predicted a full frontal cavalry charge, and this time laid a perimeter of caltrops hidden in the tall grass a ways ahead of his front line. His plan was to use the traps to pierce the Norman horses' flesh, throwing them into chaos, at which point the Byzantine light cavalry, situated on the wings, would charge into their left and right flank. Bohemond, however, was of a simpler mind. Deciding to simply use what had worked before, he once more divided his knights into a left and right wing, barreling into the Byzantine forces in a pincer yet again, bypassing the caltrops, which had only been laid before the front lines. Furthermore, Alexios had not accounted for his army's low morale. Terrified of the Normans, who thus far had made mincemeat of them in every battle they fought, the Greeks and their mercenaries either fled the field or were slaughtered. Seeing yet another battle lost, Alexios fled back to Constantinople.
What? Did we just have another battle? Like, did that battle last like a whole 5 seconds? Come on, Alexios, man, you gotta give me like an awesome, cool battle. When he brought out those kind of like those star spiky things, I was like, okay, like, I guess Alexios was thinking, okay, he's not gonna do the same thing twice. This time he's gotta go up the middle. He's not gonna do the same thing again. He was just hoping, just guessing, and maybe he's thinking those things were huge. You're telling me that the Normans would not see him drag those big, giant star thingies that looked like as big as a horse to the middle of the field and not see it? I mean, maybe they're not that big, but come on, you're going to see that, right? I mean, unless, I don't know, maybe it's just because the computer generated that it looks so obvious to me, and it's really not like that, but it just looks obvious, if you're a couple hundred yards away. Like, they got those things like blocking them in front. I mean, maybe we should just go around. It just makes it more. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. Do you think those things would be easy to see from a distance? If you're a couple hundred yards away. According to like the visuals they give us, it seems pretty obviously they would. And what's Alexios? Okay, Alexios gonna do this time. This time he's gonna expect them to flank. Right? And so, I don't know. I'm interested. Okay, come on, Alexios, dude. Maybe put someone else in control of this battle. I don't know. Man. I feel sorry for him now, dude, because, yeah.
Lost, Alexios fled back to Constantinople. With Alexios stuck licking his wounds in the capital, Bohemond took the initiative and advanced northeast, subduing the city of Skopje and the surrounding towns, before marching back south to Kastoria by mid-autumn. With the weather turning bleak, the young Norman warlord had to make a choice: settle in for the winter or continue his advance. Knowing the climate of Western Macedonia to be chilly and damp, and not wanting to risk sickness spreading through his army, Bohemond decided to push southeast to the sunny, fertile plains of Thessaly. To that end, the Norman knights pointed their lances at the region's capital, the city of Larissa.
Okay.
Wait. Before you scroll away, you need to hear this.
No, I don't need to hear it
across
at
the country
all.
are moving
I'm going to
fast
skip you right now. Alright, here we go. History.
If Byzantine sources are to be believed, the Franco-Norsemen appeared before the walls of Larissa on November 3rd, laying siege to the city and cutting it off from the outside world. The city defense was headed by a veteran soldier named Leo Cephalus, who remained ardently loyal to his emperor in Constantinople. Leo defiantly held out against Bohemond for over 6 months, but as winter turned to spring, morale in the city began to plummet as the Larissans starved under the Norman blockade. Meanwhile, Emperor Alexios, predictably, had not yet given up. Despite suffering crushing loss after crushing loss, the remarkably stubborn Roman would not turn his back on his dying empire. First, he resorted to diplomacy. Using the same underhanded tactics that had sent Guiscard rushing back to Italy, he found a way to spread whispers into the Norman camp, lighting the fires of conspiracy. 3 senior generals in the Norman army, Peter of Ulp and 2 men named Renaldus and William, were accused by the rest of the Franco-Norsemen of scheming to defect to the Byzantines. This created a rift within Bohemond's leadership corps, no doubt dealing a blow to Norman morale and buying Alexios some time. Meanwhile, using what remained of Byzantine coffers and confiscated church artifacts, Alexios managed to purchase for himself a mercenary army of 7,000 Seljuk Turks, loaned to him by the Rum Sultan Suleiman I. Despite being the recent enemies of the Eastern Romans, it can be surmised that the Turks had a vested interest in ensuring that an army of zealous Latin knights did not advance right onto their doorstep. In March of 1083, Alexios began his westward march for one final decisive battle with the Normans. Joined by Greek levies from Thessaloniki and some Pecheneg sellswords on the way, he passed his army through the narrow Tempe Valley and via the river Peneus, making his camp in the town of Trikala, where he began formulating his plan of attack. With each defeat, Alexios had adapted his strategy, and this time was no different. He knew that his troops were comparatively low in experience and morale compared to the veteran, battle-hardened Norman knights, and that therefore any direct confrontation with the Latin enemy would result in yet another crushing loss. To that end, he apprehended a local Thessalian farmer and had him educate his generals on every detail of the local terrain, with the intention of planning an ambush. On a sunny summer's morning, sometime in July of 1083, a line of Byzantine soldiers appeared on the plains of Larissa's eastern approach. Led by the generals Nicephorus Melicinus and Basil Curticius, their imperial banners flew proudly, challenging the Normans to fight. Believing the flags to represent the main Roman army, Bohemond immediately ordered his knights to mount up. With himself at the head of one squadron, and his trusted officer Brienne at the other, they barreled down in a full frontal cavalry charge upon the Byzantine line.
Not gonna work.
This time, however, would not be like the others. Instead of engaging in a general melee, the Byzantines began a planned retreat to a place called Lycostomion, the Wolf's Mouth. It was here Alexios' genius finally pulled through. Setting his ambush into action, the Greek emperor ordered a contingent of mounted archers and peltasts to begin harassing the charging Norman knights from the flank, prompting them to break their pursuit. This worked like a charm, as Count Brienne peeled off his squadron of knights to charge at his harassers. Unfortunately for him, the Normans' heavy cavalry proved unable to outmaneuver the likely Turkic mounted archers, who circled around them with ease, shooting out the horses from under the Latin knights and raining chaos upon them. Brienne made a desperate attempt to call for reinforcements, but he had been separated from Bohemond's squadron, and communication lines had been cut. Meanwhile, Bohemond himself had broken off his pursuit of the Byzantine decoy army and made a temporary camp on a small river island called Salabria, a narrow region of the outskirts of Larissa defined by marshy swamplands. According to Byzantine sources, Bohemond did not take his situation very seriously, reportedly having been lounging around eating grapes. Sometime later, Brienne's squadron had likely managed to link back up with Bohemond, and their ragged, wounded state alerted the young Norman duke to the reality of the threat he faced. The next morning, Alexios bore the full might of his army down upon Bohemond's camp.
I just want to say, I mean, if you don't succeed, try again, right? And Alexios finally woke up and had a plan, which, you know, definitely makes sense because the Normans already beat him 3 times in a row doing the same thing. And so obviously the Normans are going to be overconfident here. And so basically went right into the trap of Alexios. I mean, The Normans are, okay, enough, guys. We keep beating you guys. This time we're just going to follow them and track them down and kill them. And that's obviously what Alexios was planning on them to do, and worked like a charm. But now the Normans' backs are against the wall, and Alexios has got the numbers, and I don't know. I wonder how this is going to play out. I mean, the Normans got some backup back here, so I'm assuming these guys are going to pull and try and flank them, or are these guys? I don't know. These guys are going to meet up with them. I don't know. We'll find out.
Alexios bore the full might of his army down upon Bohemont's camp. His Turkic and Pecheneg horse archers circled around the narrow marshlands, peppering the heavily armoured knights with arrows in an attempt to draw them out of their camp and expose themselves. Learning from Brienne's mistake, Bohemond did not take the bait, ordering his warriors to remain dismounted and to form a phalanx with their lances and shields, turtling down to protect themselves from the missiles. Pinned down and trapped, it was clear that Alexios finally had the upper hand. The contest was decided when a stray arrow struck Bohemond's standard-bearer, causing the Normans to panic, break formation, and flee westwards to Trikala.
Wow.
The word education comes from a Latin word that means to lead forth.
Okay.
Forth is a
Finally, it was Alexios who saw the Normans' jugular exposed, and he went all in to end their campaign for good.
You gonna follow them?
Having sowed the seeds of division in the Norman ranks even before the battle, and knowing now that defeat would have shattered their morale further, Alexios promised lavish gifts and high court titles to any Norman noble who would desert Bohemond and join him. Bohemond found himself unable to match Alexios' extravagant offers, nor was he even able to pay his soldiers for the 2.5 years of campaigning they had done in the Balkans. Fearing a total mutiny in his army, he was forced to retreat back across the Adriatic, abandoning the lands he had taken in Macedonia and Thessaly to be reconquered by the Eastern Roman Empire. Larissa proved to be a great victory for Alexios, but the emperor was not done yet. He called the Venetians back into action, who surprisingly had remained loyal to Byzantium throughout this whole ordeal. Spurred on with the promise of trade concessions and a colony in Constantinople, the Italian sea lords took to their warships once more, driving the Normans out of Dyrrhachium and Corfu, returning those territories to the Greeks. The Balkan campaign was over. Despite the best efforts of the fearsome Norman knights, the shrewd and practical policies of the Komnenian emperor had won the day and saved the Eastern Roman Empire from total destruction. Meanwhile, back in Italy, Robert Guiscard had little time to process his son's defeat in the east, too busy dealing with the chaos Alexios had created for him on his home turf. He spent 15 months quelling the rebellions in Apulia, before finally marching north with an army of at least 4,000 to aid his spiritual suzerain in Rome. For Pope Gregory, the situation was desperate. The German king Henry...
Before I forget, so that was definitely genius of Alexo to push him, once he had him on the run. I wonder why, first of all, I wonder why, when they retreat, it's like they wave the white flag. They weren't giving up. They're just retreating, right? I figure, we wave the white flags, okay, we surrender kind of thing. But they weren't surrendering. They were just retreating. So I don't understand when they shows them in this video backing up while they have the white flags waving. Why just they're retreating? I don't know. But anyways, I mean, things seem like they were about to fall apart anyway. I don't know how much even if they won that battle, the Normans won that battle, like how much they would have been able to kind of fight on with how the rankings were, how the division in the ranks and stuff like that, and how everybody wasn't really getting along that great apparently. So I don't think, they would have succeeded taking, all of Rome over there. I think eventually it would have fallen apart. But yeah, once they were started retreating, that was definitely a smart move by Alexa to send those letters. I wonder how those get into, obviously, I guess, that secretly get into the camp and people kind of pass them around, I guess, because you think they're sending them to the camp, the general will be the one that gets all that stuff and would decide whether the troops would see them or not. But I guess that's not how it works out. But yeah, once they got all the papers promising all these lavish gifts, yeah, I guess it was just a matter of time. So it was just definitely a smart move by the Norman leader just to get out of Dodge, and while he still had an army. But anyways, sorry, I should have stopped that earlier.
For Pope Gregory, the situation was desperate. The German King Henry had more or less taken full control of the Eternal City, leaving the Pope confined in the Castel Sant'Angelo. An anti-pope, Clement III, had been coronated in St. Peter's Basilica at the behest of the king,
What?
and in turn had crowned Henry with the symbolic title of Charlemagne, Holy Roman Emperor. In turn had crowned Henry Castel Sant'Angelo. An anti-pope, Clement III, had...
What is an anti-pope? What is that? If the pope is still alive, you can't just make up a new pope, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't understand how. I guess I apologize because I don't understand how. I guess the pope religion thing works. I thought like the pope was the pope basically till he died, and then when they died, then you kind of have like the cardinals get together and decide a new pope. I think that's kind of how it works. I'm not sure. So I don't understand this new pope thing, but I guess Henry's got the power; he can do what he wants, right? And I guess kind of paid or forced this new guy or to make him the...
been coronated in St. Peter's Basilica at the behest of the king,
Yeah.
and in turn had crowned Henry with the symbolic title of Charlemagne, Holy Roman Emperor.
Charlemagne. Okay, so Charlemagne is what they call the Holy Roman Emperor. Okay, that's Charlemagne kind of goes to whoever's the Holy Roman Emperor. Is that kind of the thing? I'm not sure how the lingo works, but wow. Okay, so Henry's like kind of forced his hand, and now I guess that's kind of for political reasons. For the other Christians are in the area. Oh, this guy's the big deal now. We need to follow him now. Not the Pope. This is the guy who we got to follow. I guess it's kind of just to help help people follow him. I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know the significance of it, so I'm just guessing. That it just kind of helps them.
Henry with the symbolic title of Charlemagne, Holy Roman Emperor. Upon hearing that Guiscard was marching to face him, Henry opted to avoid open battle, seeing no need for it. After all, he'd gotten everything he wanted. Perhaps also fearing the martial prowess of the Normans, he and his army retreated back to Germany. When Guiscard arrived at the gates of Rome in 1084, he had expected to be treated like a liberator. Instead, to his unpleasant surprise, he found himself barred by an angry Roman populace who had thrown their support behind Emperor Henry rather than the Pope, who remained hidden in his castle. Naturally, the old warlord was undeterred by this mob and formulated a plan to break through their defences. The bulk of his army remained camped outside the east side of the city, where they skirmished sporadically with the Romans on the walls. Meanwhile, under cover of darkness, he snuck 1,400 men around the walls to the Porta Latina, a small, sparsely defended gate. Shrouded by night, they scaled the battlements and opened the portcullis for the rest of the army, which poured into the city, taking the Romans completely by surprise.
Okay, this is Rome, right? So for those of you who, I guess, watched the Hannibal series, couldn't Hannibal have done the same thing? Because, Hannibal, he avoided going to Rome, and, for unknown reasons, really, but, if he did, there was a debate. I remember there was a little bit of a debate that he couldn't take Rome, that, it was too, like, heavily fortified and stuff like that. And this was like, over 1,000 years earlier. So I'm assuming that defenses are a lot better in Rome in this video than they were back then. I'm assuming. I mean, maybe not, because maybe like Rome was almost at its peak back then, so maybe it was better back then. I'm not sure, but it seems like the Normans had a plan and got in there pretty easily here. Then again, maybe there would have been more people in the city to defend against Hannibal, but it just makes me think that Hannibal could have easily taken Rome with how the way the Normans took Rome. I don't know, just a thought, because I always wondered what would happen if Hannibal tried to take Rome, and the Normans took Rome, and I know Hannibal had a lot more, people under his, his army was a lot bigger, right? Trying to remember, but anyways, yeah, that's just kind of went through my head with Hannibal.
Rest of the army, which poured into the city, taking the Romans completely by surprise. From here, sources differ wildly on what happened next. Roman chroniclers bitterly claim that Guiscard's troops committed a brutal and ruthless sacking, slaughtering and violating indiscriminately, while Norman chroniclers assert that Guiscard simply set some buildings aflame to distract the Romans, used it to rescue the Pope, then left the city. It seems most likely that the Normans ravaged their way through the capital and Palatine Hills, looting and pillaging as they had done for years, while burning 8 churches in the process. However, the damage was nowhere near what Rome had seen from its sacks of yore under the Gauls or the Goths. Having lost most of his support, and reviled by the citizens of Rome for his role in the Norman sacking, Pope Gregory was forced into exile in Norman Benevento, where he died a year later. Meanwhile, the Germans' imperial antipope Clement retained power as Christendom's supreme pontiff. As for Guiscard, following his little side
Anti-pope. I'm gonna Google it myself right now, guys. Anti-pope. Like, because the other pope is still alive. They locked him away and just created a new pope. Hold on a second. Watch me spell this wrong. Alright, and what's an anti-pope, guys? Alright, anti-pope is a person who, in opposition to the legitimately elected pope, makes a significant attempt to occupy the position of Bishop of Rome and leader of the Catholic Church. Okay. Okay, so this person is in opposition to the legitimately elected pope. Okay, so this person is basically not even the pope. They're just like, I don't like this guy. I'm against him. I want to be the pope now, and I'm going to make a decision. I don't really get it. I'm sorry, guys. I know you guys are going to roast me in the comments for this, but this doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it shouldn't, but anyways. Because it just seems like when they free the regular pope that things should go back to how they were, but yet now Henry, the king of Germany, is like, okay, I got my title now, I'm leaving, so he just basically came to get his title from Rome and left. Like, that's all he wanted. He didn't care about Robert down here. Okay, anyways, I'm sorry. I don't know if any of that I just said made any kind of sense, but it made sense in my mind. I'm still kind of confused of how easily that just happened.
Christendom's supreme pontiff. As for Guiscard, following his little side quest of sacking the heart of the Catholic world, he set about returning to the main story mission, but his attempts to pick up where he'd left off in Byzantium would end before it truly began. In May of 1085, while rallying his troops on the Greek island of Kephallonia, he succumbed to a disease. Frail and sickly, he passed peacefully in his bed, ending the 4-decade-long career of one of the most successful medieval warriors of all time. The attempted Norman conquest of the Balkans became a watershed moment for the Eastern Roman Empire. In his darkest hour, the shrewd and cunning Emperor Alexios was tested in fire and blood, and during the rest of his enlightened reign, the borders of his empire were secured. Over the next century, his dynasty, the Komnenoi, would retake much of the Balkans and Anatolia, breathing new life into a long-struggling imperium.
Okay.
The death of the cunning fox Guiscard marked the end of an era for the Normans of the south. The warlord and his de Hauteville clan had cemented their permanent legacy, and although they had failed to conquer the east, southern Italy and Sicily remained firmly in their control, and neither Greeks, Germans or popes would be able to dislodge them from this land. Our series on the Normans will continue, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button. We will...
Yeah, I think we got one more episode. One second.
I'd like to express our gratitude to our...
Okay, yeah, we have one more episode, I believe, after this one. So they did a pretty good job there, and over in the east, and took over a pretty good sum of land, but I just kind of like, he was on a good run. Just eventually, he made a bad move, and he had to pay the price for it. I just think it was bound to happen. I think even if he loses, maybe if he barely wins that match, I think it would have happened like the next battle or something. I just think it was bound to happen. Maybe you guys let me know what you think. But they came back home, and Normans pretty much held their own, in southern Italy. I mean, they didn't lose any ground there. Really, the only thing that really happened was, the King of Germany came down. Now he's like, the Chardonnay, not Chardonnay. I can't think of the name of the Holy Roman Emperor. He became the Holy. You know what I'm talking about, guys. Never mind. But you know what I'm saying. So does that happen? So basically, they're not going back to East Rome. They're not going back to the East where, the Eastern Roman Empire is. They're not going over there. They're done with that area, but they've got a big foothold still in Italy and Sicily. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna go see what the next episode is. Sicily, multicultural kingdom of Normans, Greeks. Okay, so they're basically, I guess they're going to take over. I mean, they already took over Sicily, but they don't own the whole part right now. Right? But I guess it's going to be, they said before it was going to be multicultural, but there'd be 100 years of multicultural and Norman Greek and Greeks and Arabs, I'm sorry. So I guess they're just gonna like put their foothold and just make everything more legitimate, and they're just gonna like dig their foothold and take all of Sicily, and everything is gonna be all hunky dory. Because beginning of the series, they said that all of them basically live in peace for the next 100 years. So I'm pretty much this is just gonna explain how that happened and all that stuff. And yeah, I think that's where we're at now. I'm sorry, I was stumbling on my words and probably not making much sense again, like that. All right. We're good now, right? We're good? Okay, good deal. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Please hit that like and subscribe button below. Yeah. Oh, man, guys. It's always fun, right? Nothing's always black and white, right? Everything's, learning's never easy. Come on. If learning's easy, then you're not having fun. That's the way I look at it, right? It's got to be complicated or else it's no fun, right? So anyways, yeah, history is awesome. You guys are awesome for watching me watch history, because history is amazing. And I hope you guys learn as much as I do. You guys are, I already seen the comments. You guys are like super smart. Like, I feel like an idiot compared to you guys, because you guys seem to know it all. And I always feel lost over here, but I really appreciate you guys helping me out in the comments, because you guys really do. You guys explain stuff a lot, and I really do appreciate it. So I really thank guys, and firm handshakes to you guys. And I'll see you guys in future videos, especially the next one. We got one more left in this series. So anyways, yep, that's the deal right there. And you have a great night, great day, and all that fun stuff. Thank you guys. Peace.